The note fell from Ethan's jacket pocket as I was gathering laundry. A small square of cream-colored paper that didn't belong among the receipts and business cards. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it, revealing elegant handwriting I didn't recognize. Same time tomorrow. Our spot. C. I stood frozen in our walk-in closet, surrounded by the familiar scent of Ethan's cologne and pressed shirts. The morning light streaming through our bedroom windows suddenly felt harsh, exposing. 3 simple sentences had transformed our carefully ordered world into something uncertain and threatening. My phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. Mom, forgot my calc book. Can you bring it to school? I tucked the note into my pocket and grabbed my keys. The drive to Tessa's high school gave me time to think, to replay the subtle changes in Ethan's behavior over the past few months. The late meetings, the weekend conferences, the new cologne. Tessa was waiting by the school entrance, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing one of Ethan's old college sweatshirts. You're a lifesaver, she said, reaching for the textbook. Dad's taking me shopping after school. Wanna come? I have patience until 6. I forced a smile, noting how easily she mentioned these father-daughter outings that had become more frequent lately. Maybe next time. Whatever. She shrugged, already turning away. Oh, hey, don't wait up tonight. We might grab dinner too. I watched her disappear into the crowd of students, remembering when she used to tell me everything. Now she's saved her secrets for Ethan, and I wondered how many of his she kept in return. Back at my dermatology practice, I struggled to focus on patient consultations. Between appointments, I found myself staring at my phone, thumb hovering over a contact I hadn't called in years. Nolan Pierce.
Dr.
Mercer? My assistant's voice startled me. Your 2 o'clock is ready. I put my phone away, but the thought of Nolan, now a private investigator, lingered. We'd stayed loosely connected through social media, enough for me to know he specialized in domestic cases. The kind of cases I never thought I'd need help with. That evening, I prepared dinner alone, the kitchen radio filling the silence. A text from Ethan lit up my phone. Running late with Tess. Don't hold dinner. I picked up the note again, studying the precise loops of the C. Celeste, maybe? There was a Celeste at his marketing firm. Young, ambitious, the director's daughter. I'd met her at the holiday party last December, noticed how she touched Ethan's arm when she laughed at his jokes. The house phone rang, startling me. It was Ethan's mother. Lila, dear, I'm just confirming you're both coming to dinner Sunday? I'm making Ethan's favorite pot roast. Of course, I said, my voice steady despite the acid churning in my stomach. We wouldn't miss it. And how's my son? Working too hard as usual. I stared at the note on the counter. You know Ethan, always giving everything his all. After hanging up, I pulled out my phone again and typed a message to Nolan. Need to discuss something confidential. Coffee tomorrow. His response came quickly. Usual place?
8 Uhr morgens.
I sent back a simple yes and deleted our exchange. Then I opened my calendar and moved my morning appointments, creating a window of time that didn't officially exist. Just like the note that didn't officially exist. Just like the growing space between Ethan and me that nobody else could see. Upstairs, I stood in our closet again, running my hands over Ethan's suits, wondering which one he'd worn when he wrote his response to C. Wondering how many other notes had passed between them, how many secrets were hidden in the pockets of our life together. Nolan hadn't changed much since high school. Same watchful eyes, same quiet intensity. He stirred his coffee methodically while I explained about the note, Ethan's late nights, and Tessa's sudden devotion to her father. When did you first notice the changes? He asked, his voice neutral, professional. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa, staying at Dad's office after school. He's teaching me about marketing stuff. Don't wait up. I showed Nolan the message. This is new. She used to hate visiting his office. Does she mention anyone specific at work? Besides Ethan? The question made me pause. She talked about meeting some of his colleagues last month. Said they were cool, not stuffy like she expected. My coffee had grown cold. She mentioned someone named Celeste. Nolan's expression didn't change, but he wrote something in his small notebook. I'll need a few days to look into things. Try to maintain your normal routine. Normal routine.
Right.
Like preparing dinner for 3 when only one would show up. Like pretending not to notice Ethan's fresh dry cleaning when he claimed to be working late. That evening, I heard Tessa before I saw her, her laughter floating up the driveway as Ethan's car pulled in. When they entered the kitchen, she was wearing a new leather jacket. "Mom, look what Dad got me." She twirled, the jacket catching the light. "Isn't it amazing?" "It's gorgeous," I said, noting how Ethan avoided my eyes. "Special occasion?" "Just because," Ethan replied, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "She's been helping out at the office, showing real talent for the business." "Really?" I kept my voice light. "I thought you wanted to study art, Tess." Tessa's expression hardened. "People change, Mom. Maybe I want to do both." "Both is good." Ethan jumped in, placing a hand on Tessa's shoulder. "Actually, there's an industry event this weekend. I thought Tessa might come along, see how it all works." "This weekend?"
I set down the dish I was drying.
"But it's your grandmother's birthday dinner."
Oh,
Tessa looked at Ethan. "I forgot about that." "We can do both," he said quickly. "The event's in the afternoon. We'll make it to dinner." I watched them exchange glances, their silent communication excluding me completely. "Who else will be at this event?" "Just colleagues," Ethan said. "The usual crowd." "Including Celeste?" The name dropped like a stone between us. Tessa's shoulders tensed. Ethan's hand fell away from her. "Among others," he said carefully.
why?
"Just curious about who's mentoring our daughter." Tessa yanked off the leather jacket. "God, Mom, why do you have to make everything weird? It's just work stuff. You're not involved because you chose not to be involved." "Tessa," Ethan started, but she was already storming upstairs. We stood in the kitchen, the silence heavy with unspoken accusations. Finally, Ethan cleared his throat. "I should go talk to her." "Should you?" I met his gaze. "Or should you tell me what's really going on?" For a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt. Fear. I couldn't tell. Then his phone buzzed, and the moment shattered. He glanced at the screen, and I caught a glimpse of that same elegant handwriting I'd seen on the note. "I need to take this," he muttered, already turning away. "Work thing." I watched him retreat to his home office, phone pressed to his ear, voice dropping to a whisper as soon as he thought I couldn't hear. Upstairs, Tessa's music started blasting. The same songs she played in Ethan's car, the ones she said I wouldn't understand. My phone lit up with a message from Nolan. "Found something. Meet tomorrow?" I typed back, yes, and deleted the message, just like I'd been deleting all our conversations. Just like Ethan had been deleting his. Nolan spread the photos across his desk like playing cards. Each one felt like a punch to the gut. Ethan and Celeste at a restaurant I'd never seen, their heads bent close together. Ethan helping Celeste into his car outside her apartment building at dawn. But the last photo made my hands shake. Tessa sitting between them at a cafe, all three laughing over something on Celeste's phone. "When?" My voice cracked. "Last Tuesday. The day Tessa said she was studying at the library." Nolan's voice was gentle. "There's more." He slid over a receipt from a jewelry store. The date matched the afternoon Ethan claimed he had a client meeting. The amount made me feel sick. "The necklace went to Celeste's apartment," Nolan said. "Delivered last week." My phone buzzed, Tessa asking if she could sleep at her friend Amy's house. I knew now that Amy probably had long dark hair and worked in marketing. "They're careful," Nolan continued, "but not careful enough. Celeste's father is pushing for Ethan to take over as creative director. The position opens next month." The pieces clicked together. Ethan's sudden interest in bringing Tessa to work, the mentoring sessions, the way he'd been positioning himself for promotion. He wasn't just having an affair. He was building a new family right under my nose. "I need to go." I gathered the photos with trembling fingers. "What do I owe you?" "Lila." Nolan caught my wrist. "There's something else. Celeste is house hunting. 3-bedroom properties in our school district." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. 3 bedrooms. Room for Tessa. I drove home in a daze. the manila envelope of photos burning a hole in my passenger seat. The house was dark when I arrived, but Ethan's car was in the driveway. I found him in his home office, laptop glowing in the darkness. Working late? I asked from the doorway. He jumped slightly. Just finishing some proposals. I dropped the envelope on his desk. Here's a proposal for you. His face drained of color as he looked through the photos. When he reached the one of Tessa, his hands started shaking. I can explain, he began. Explain what? How you're grooming our daughter to accept your mistress. Or how you're using her to secure your promotion. That's not, he ran a hand through his hair. Celeste genuinely cares about Tessa. About both of us. Both of you. I laughed, a harsh sound I barely recognized. Is that why you're looking at houses together? Planning your new life, while I'm still living this one. The front door opened downstairs. Tessa's footsteps on the stairs, then her voice. Dad? Are you still up? I need to talk to you about. She froze in the doorway, taking in the scattered photos, my rigid posture, Ethan's pale face. Mom, her voice small, young. What's going on? Show her, Ethan. I gestured to the photos. Show her how you've been using her to play happy families with your girlfriend. Dad wouldn't. Tessa grabbed the nearest photo, then another. Her hands started shaking. This isn't. You said she was just mentoring me. Tess, honey. Ethan reached for her, but she backed away. You made me lie to Mom. Her voice cracked. All those times you said Mom wouldn't understand, that she was too controlling, too focused on her work to care about what we were doing. I never meant. Stop lying. I slammed my hand on his desk. For once in your life, just stop lying. The silence that followed was deafening. Tessa looked between us, tears streaming down her face, before turning and running to her room. The door slammed, and moments later, her music started blasting. Not the songs from Ethan's car this time, but the angry punk rock she used to play before all this started. The real estate agent's smile faltered when I walked into the open house. Maybe she recognized me, the soon-to-be ex-wife of the man who'd toured this same property with his girlfriend last week. I kept my face neutral, wandering through the rooms where Ethan and Celeste had probably already planned their future. My phone buzzed. Tessa. Where are you? Dad's freaking out. I ignored it, running my hand along the kitchen island. 3 bedrooms upstairs, the agent had said. Master suite, home office, and a room perfect for a teenager. They'd thought of everything. Another text. Mom, please. He says you emptied the joint account. I had. Every penny except what was legally required to maintain household expenses. The look on my bank manager's face when I'd explained the situation told me I wasn't the first woman to sit in that chair, planning her escape. The agent cleared her throat. There's another showing scheduled. Celeste Harmon, right? I watched her expression shift. Tell her the crown molding in the master bedroom is crooked, and the school district isn't what it used to be. Outside, I found Nolan waiting in his car. Did you get what you needed? I handed him the business card I'd picked up inside. Find out who else they're showing houses to. I want to know every property they visited. Lila. His voice was careful. Are you sure this is about protecting Tessa? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Ethan's mother. Lila, dear, what's happening? Ethan says you're not answering his calls, and Tessa's absolutely beside herself. Ask your son about the house he's buying with Celeste Harmon. My voice sounded distant, cold. Ask him about the necklace he bought her, or how he's been using Tessa to cover his tracks. Silence then. Oh, Lila. I have to go. I hung up, watching another couple approach the house. Young, hopeful, untouched by betrayal. Drive, Nolan. At my office, I found Tessa waiting in the parking lot, her eyes red. You can't just disappear like that, like you disappeared to all those study sessions with Celeste. She flinched. That's different. Dad said. Your father says a lot of things. I unlocked the office door, letting us both in. Did he tell you about the house they're buying? The one with a room already picked out for you. He wouldn't. She stopped, remembering the photos. I didn't know about any house.
No.
I pulled up the listing on my phone, showed her the virtual tour. Maybe you can help them decorate. You 3 seem to make such a good team. Stop it. She knocked the phone from my hand. You're acting crazy. Dad messed up, okay? But you're making it worse. By protecting what's mine? By acting like I'm something to fight over. Her voice cracked. Did you ever think maybe I needed both of you? That maybe if you hadn't been so obsessed with your practice, Dad wouldn't have. She stopped, horror spreading across her face. I felt the accusation land like a slap. Mom, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I picked up my phone, noting the cracked screen. Go home, Tessa. Your father's waiting. Where are you going to go? I thought about the apartment I'd viewed yesterday, the lease papers waiting in my bag. Somewhere I don't have to watch my daughter choose her father's lies over her mother's truth. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Through the window, I saw Ethan's car pulling into the lot. Of course, he'd followed her here. Of course, he wouldn't let me have even this conversation in peace. Mom, please. Go. I turned away, unable to watch her choose him again. Your father's here. The lease papers sat and signed on my new apartment's kitchen counter while I unpacked boxes labeled mine in angry black marker. Everything divided now. His life, my life, our daughter caught in between. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Ethan's lawyer and a text from Tessa. At least tell me where you are.
The doorbell rang.
Through the peephole, I saw Celeste Harmon, perfect makeup, perfect posture, perfect life wrecker. I opened the door. Wrong apartment?
DR.
Mercer. She held up a manila envelope. We need to talk. No, we don't. I started to close the door, but she wedged her foot in the gap. It's about Tessa. She pushed the envelope through. And about the complaint you filed with the medical board. My hand froze on the doorknob. I hadn't filed any complaint. Inside the envelope were printouts of emails, dozens of them sent to the state medical board, detailing allegations of prescription fraud at my practice. All supposedly from me. Ethan didn't send these, Celeste said quietly. But my father has friends on the board. They're taking it seriously. The room tilted slightly. My license, my practice, my entire professional identity, all balanced on the edge of destruction. What do you want? Stop investigating us. Stop fighting the house purchase. Let Tessa make her own choices. She straightened her designer blazer. The board meets next week. It would be shame if. Mom, we both turned. Tessa stood in the hallway, her face shifting from surprise to understanding to anger. What are you doing here? She stepped between us, facing Celeste. Did Dad send you? Tessa, honey. Don't. Tessa's voice cracked. Don't pretend you care about me. I saw the text on Dad's phone. About how I was your ticket to making this work. Celeste paled. Those messages weren't.
What?
Weren't meant for me to see? Like the emails you helped Dad draft about Mom's practice? Tessa pulled out her phone, fingers shaking. I forwarded everything to myself before I deleted them from his phone. Every single message where you two planned how to handle me and Mom. The hallway felt too small, too charged with unspoken threats and revealed secrets. Tessa, I touched her shoulder. How long have you known? Since the day you found the note.
She wouldn't look at me.
I saw Celeste plant it in Dad's jacket at the office. They wanted you to find it, wanted you to look crazy when you accused them. Celeste took a step back. Your father loves you, Tessa. Everything we did was for you. Tessa's voice was ice. Get out. And tell Dad that if anything happens to Mom's practice, his precious promotion might get complicated. Grandpa Harmon might want to know exactly how his daughter landed such a prime position. After Celeste left, Tessa stood rigid, staring at the floor. I should have told you sooner. About everything. Why didn't you? Because. She finally met my eyes. I thought if I played along, kept their secrets, maybe it wouldn't be real. Maybe we could still be. She gestured helplessly at the half-unpacked boxes. But we can't, can we? I looked at the envelope of fraudulent complaints, thought of all the careful plans Ethan and Celeste had made to destroy what I'd built. No, I said, reaching for my phone. But we can build something new. I dialed Nolan's number. Something they won't see coming. Tessa picked up one of the boxes marked mine and crossed out the word with her pen. Above it, she wrote OURS. "What's the plan?" she asked. I thought about everything they'd tried to take from us: my practice, my daughter, my dignity. "First," I said, "we're going to need those texts you saved." The medical board hearing room felt colder than it should in June. I sat straight-backed in my chair while Dr. Harrison, the board chairman, reviewed the complaint documents. Beside me, my lawyer shifted nervously, eyeing the empty seats where Ethan and Celeste should have been.
Dr.
"Mercer," Harrison began, "these are serious allegations. Prescription fraud." The door burst open. Celeste rushed in. Mascara streaked down her face.
Wait.
"I need to." "MS."
Harmon.
Harrison frowned. "This is a closed hearing. The complaints are fake." She dropped a USB drive on the table. "I helped create them. All the evidence is here." My lawyer reached for the drive, but I stopped him. Something wasn't right. This felt too easy, too convenient. "Why?" asked her. Celeste's lips trembled. "Because Ethan promised he'd leave you if I did this. Said once your practice was gone, you'd have no choice but to accept the divorce terms." She wiped her eyes. "But he lied. He's been lying to everyone." The board members exchanged glances. Harrison picked up the drive. "We'll need to verify." My phone buzzed. A text from Nolan. "Don't trust her. Check your email now." Under the table, I opened my email. Photos appeared: Celeste leaving Ethan's office an hour ago, both of them smiling. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m. Her mascara perfectly intact.
Dr.
Harrison. I stood up. "Before you review that drive, you should know it's part of a larger scheme." Celeste's face hardened. "What are you talking about?" "The drive probably contains evidence of actual fraud committed at my practice over the last month. Evidence you and Ethan planted while using my login credentials." I pulled out my own USB drive. "But you didn't know about the hidden cameras Nolan installed 3 weeks ago." The color drained from Celeste's face. "Or about the keylogger that recorded every false entry you made in my system." I handed the drive to Harrison. "Or about Tessa photographing you breaking into my office after hours." "Tessa would never." "Already did." Tessa's voice came from the doorway. She held up her phone, playing a video of Celeste entering my office at night. "Dad's not the only one who knows how to keep evidence." Celeste lunged for the phone. In the chaos that followed, I watched my daughter, my fierce, brilliant daughter, stand her ground as security led Celeste away. But our victory was short-lived. My phone buzzed again. Ethan had emptied our remaining joint accounts. The house was already in escrow, sold well below market value to a mysterious LLC. He'd scorched the earth behind him, ensuring that even if I kept my practice, I'd be fighting financial fires for years. "Mom," Tessa touched my arm. "What's wrong?" I showed her the bank notifications. "Your father's been planning this for months. The medical board complaint was just a distraction while he liquidated everything. But we stopped Celeste. We proved they tried to destroy my practice." I sank back into my chair, the weight of reality settling in. "But they've still won. The money's gone. The house is gone. Your college fund." Tessa's face crumpled. "He wouldn't, but he had. In trying to save my practice, I'd left our finances vulnerable. Now we had nothing but an apartment full of boxes and a business hanging by a thread."
Dr.
Mercer. Harrison's voice cut through my despair. "Given this evidence, the board will dismiss the complaints. But there's something else you should see." He slid a document across the table, a familiar letterhead. "Celeste's father's company. This arrived this morning. A formal investigation into certain financial irregularities." He met my eyes. "It seems someone has been tracking every penny your husband moved, every account, every transfer, and they've been sending it all to the SEC." I looked at Tessa, but she shook her head, equally confused. Then my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. "Karma's best served by professionals."
And
The SEC investigation made headlines by morning. I watched from my apartment as news vans gathered outside Harmon Marketing Group, where Ethan had been scheduled to accept his promotion. Instead, Federal agents led him and Celeste's father out in handcuffs. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Ethan. No handcuffs, but his designer suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. 5 minutes, I said through the door. That's all you get. He looked smaller somehow, standing in my living room. You did this.
No.
I gestured to the boxes Tessa and I were still unpacking. You did this. Every choice, every lie, every manipulation brought you here. They're freezing all the accounts. His voice cracked. Everything we built. Everything you destroyed. Tessa emerged from her room, clutching her phone. They just posted the whole investigation online. The fake companies, the embezzlement. You used my college fund to pay for your affair. Ethan reached for her. Princess, I can explain. Don't. She backed away. I saw the texts about the house, about how you and Celeste planned to use me to hurt Mom. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love either of us? Of course, he stopped, seeing something in her expression. What else do you know? Everything. I pulled out my own phone, showing him Nolan's final report, including what really happened to your first wife's inheritance. The one that mysteriously disappeared right before you met me. The color drained from his face. You can't prove. The SEC already has. Nolan's been building this case for weeks. Every transaction, every shell company, every victim. I stepped closer. Did you really think I'd let you destroy another family? I'll lose everything. His voice was barely a whisper. Now you know how it feels. Tessa's words cut through the air. But Mom and I, we're done losing. My phone buzzed. Nolan, warning that reporters were heading to my apartment. Ethan saw the message, and something in him broke.
Please, he begged.
I'll sign whatever you want.
Give you whatever's left.
Just don't let them. You mean like you were going to give me whatever was left after you and Celeste destroyed my practice? The words tasted like victory, but somehow hollow. The reporters will be here soon. You might want to use the back exit. He turned to Tessa one last time. Baby, please. Goodbye, Dad. She walked to her room, closing the door softly behind her. I watched him leave, this man I'd once loved, now reduced to skulking through back alleys to avoid cameras. Part of me had imagined this moment would feel triumphant. Instead, I felt empty, until I heard Tessa crying. I found her sitting on her bed, surrounded by old family photos. He really never loved us, did he? No, honey. I sat beside her, picking up a photo from her 5th birthday. He loved the idea of us. The perfect wife, the adoring daughter. We were props in his performance. But we're not props anymore. She wiped her eyes, straightening her shoulders. We're protagonists. Through the window, we could hear the reporters arriving, their questions echoing up from the street. But they weren't looking for us. We weren't the story anymore. Mom, Tessa gathered the photos, dropping them in the trash. Can we paint my room? I'm thinking blue. I smiled, remembering how Ethan had always insisted on beige, claiming it photographed better for family portraits. Blue sounds perfect. My phone buzzed again. Not Nolan this time, but my lawyer. The SEC wanted to discuss recovering our assets. Starting over, properly this time. Ready to rebuild? I asked Tessa. She linked her arm through mine. Already started. 6 months later, I stood in my newly expanded dermatology practice, watching Tessa hang her first art show in our waiting room. Her photographs captured moments of transformation, a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis, a sunrise over our apartment building, a broken mirror reflecting infinite possibilities.
The bell chimed.
Celeste stood in the doorway, thinner now, designer clothes replaced by something simpler. She carried a thick envelope. Your restitution payment. She placed it on the counter. The court approved my testimony against Ethan and father. This is your share. Tessa tensed beside me, but I touched her arm. Thank you. I'm leaving the country, Celeste continued. But I wanted you to know I never meant for it to go so far. Ethan had a way of making everything seem justified. He still does. I gestured to yesterday's newspaper, where Ethan's prison interview painted him as a victim of circumstance. Some people never change, but some do. She looked at Tessa's photos. These are beautiful. They're not for sale. Tessa's voice was firm but not unkind. Not to you. Celeste nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. She turned to leave, then stopped. The house, the one we were going to buy. It's back on the market. After she left, Tessa grabbed her keys. Come on. Where are we going? To look at a house.
She grinned.
One with good bones and bad memories. Perfect for a renovation. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The real estate agent walked us through rooms once filled with Ethan and Celeste's dreams, now empty and waiting. The previous sale fell through, she explained. Something about fraudulent funds. But it's a steal at this price. Tessa wandered upstairs while I stood in the kitchen, remembering how I'd once imagined Celeste here, playing happy families with my husband and daughter. Now I imagine something different. Holiday dinners with Tessa and her future college friends, a home office for my practice's expansion, walls filled with her photography. Mom, Tessa called from upstairs. Come see this. I found her in what would have been her room in Ethan's version of events. She'd opened the window, letting in fresh air and light. On the windowsill sat a small origami crane, one of dozens she'd been folding since the trial, a paper chain of healing. It's perfect, she said. Not because of what almost happened here, but because of what could happen now. My phone buzzed. Nolan, checking if we needed him to run background checks on the seller. Always protecting us, even now. I replied with a simple thank you for everything he'd done and everything he'd helped us become. Should we make an offer?
Tessa asked.
I looked around the room, seeing not what was lost but what could be built. On one condition. That blue paint you wanted for your room? Let's use it everywhere. That evening, as we celebrated with takeout in our apartment, Tessa handed me an envelope. Inside was a photograph I hadn't seen, one she'd taken the day we found Ethan's note. In it, I stood in my closet, surrounded by his suits, looking lost. Below it was a more recent shot, me in my practice, surrounded by Tessa's art, smiling at a patient. Before and after, she said softly. Like your patients, but different. Different how? Their transformations are on the outside. She took my hand. Ours is deeper. Through the window, I could see the city lights flickering like stars. Somewhere out there, Ethan sat in his cell, probably still plotting his next performance. But his audience had moved on to better stories, ones we were writing ourselves, one day at a time. Mom, Tessa squeezed my hand. I'm glad we chose us. Me too, honey. I squeezed back. Me too.